Manchester City and Liverpool have written a joint letter to supporters of both fans, Danny, pleading with them, apparently, to behave and report other fans who do not behave in an attempt to end what's become something of a toxic feud between the sides. And of course, we know that this very week they go head-to-head in the Carabao Cup. We knew that before we all set off to Qatar. We knew it out there. We knew we were coming back to this fixture. A fixture, Danny, would you agree, has become, because of the huge rivalry between the two sets of fans now for a variety of reasons, it's a fixture that's become potentially toxic.
Yeah, it's got more fire in it now, this fixture, than ever before, because of how competitive they've been against each other in recent seasons, and that tends to slip into the fans as well, for obvious reasons. It's proactive. I think it's a good thing. I mean, whether it'll make any difference or not is a whole different debate.
Yeah.
Because silly, immature, pathetic behaviour from morons is something it's hard to control, because
yes, but
you need a level of intellect, don't you?
There's a but here, Danny. I mean, the history basically surrounds incidents like at October's Premier League game at Anfield, graffiti relating to the Hillsborough disaster in 1989, pictured on toilet doors in the away section. Manchester City alleged that coins had been thrown at their manager, Pep Guardiola. Manchester City's team bus had also been damaged in the past. But here's the thing, Simon. Responsibility, yes, on fans, but how much responsibility is there now on the managers and players to ease the tension and watch what they're doing?
It depends what they do. I mean, you can't mistake or ask people to dial the intensity down because there's going to be some abuse attached to the intensity. This is an intense football game between two very big football clubs that have, over the most recent years, been competing for the exact same space. And it comes with that intensity. It comes with that focus. Now, you've got a very small minority, it would seem, of fans in various football clubs that have felt it funny to take the mickey out of the 1958 Munich crash for years with Manchester United. Some people think it's funny, for whatever reason I can't imagine, to ridicule what happened at Hillsborough. But there's a very small section of them. Now, I think it's appropriate that you deal with these people. I think it comes to real physical on-the-ground stuff, which is steward these games in a different way, steward them with perhaps at a higher level of stewarding and a zero-tolerance policy that one murmur gets people hoiked out of stadiums. Yeah. Now, of course, you can't legislate for how people graffiti and what happens to team buses, besides, again, stepping up the actual reaction rather than the rhetoric around it.
Well, awareness is good.
I'm not suggesting it's not the only tool. Yeah. Asking people to behave themselves is tantamount to...
And asking other people to report
Asking people to behave themselves often is tantamount to those very same people reacting to the fact they're getting a light shine on them by behaving worse. Right? So there is an element of that. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Asking managers to suggest they take a different tone or level of response to the game that's in front of them, I think is unrealistic, unless they are, in fact, contributing to the jingoism.
Well, they said the reason this has come up is because they're suggesting they have in the last fixture with the Klopp situation and the Guardiola situation.
But that was intensity between two managers in a game.
But what they're saying is that fuels the next one.
But that's giving people an excuse for poor behaviour. Those people don't need an excuse
for
poor
behaviour. So what
behaviour.
you're saying is it should be relevant what the managers and players do.
I think the managers have got to be mindful of the fixture, but you can't ask the managers not to be fully focused, fully motivated. You'd like to see managers not
to be fully focused or motivated. But the way you conduct and behave yourself.
Look at the picture in the Telegraph this morning. That picture of Klopp right in the face of the line.
Hold on.
Fully motivated, but overdid it. That's why he got touched. That's why he got banned.
That's something different. That's something different. That could have happened in any particular game.
No, but it didn't.
So basically, Klopp should dial that down because it will incite Man City fans. Klopp should dial that down because it's abuse of his position as a football manager, and he should be consequenced by the officials. It should have nothing to do with Man City fans reacting in an appalling way to the situations that happened at Hillsborough, and it should be neither the same for Guardiola with Liverpool fans.
I agree. What I'm saying to you is that, do you think there is some effect?
He shouldn't do it anyway.
No, but we're talking about... If you remember, do you remember that time...
No, give some excuse.
I was part of that when Wenger and Yol had that spat on the thing. And you know where they got chest to chest and they looked like they were going to go toe for toe. Do you remember that one?
Well, you were part of that?
Well, I wasn't part of that.
You were
I was
amongst
there.
it?
Yeah, Yol and Wenger. And for example, it's the only one I can think of, top of my head. There's probably better ones. But that definitely got the fans at it because of those two doing that, right?
But that's okay, and that's fine.
But that's got nothing to do.
That's got nothing to do with the complaint they're making, which is about the abuse citing Hillsborough, or the abuse citing Munich,
Graffiti.
or the
it
graffiti.
heightens tribalism.
Yeah, but
in the match at Anfield, Simon Guardiola's gesticulating to the Liverpool fans.
Fine.
They don't want to see that. They don't need him to do that because it will set them off, and it did.
That's fine, and we can talk about the conduct of managers per se and getting them to behave themselves in a different way.
You're there to coach your team. Forget about what the fans are going on about.
I think where we're going with it, what you're saying, Simon, is actually, yes, in an ideal world you cut that out a little bit, but what we're saying is that in itself ain't going to stop the things that we're
No, I
talking
don't think it will be.
No, I actually agree with that.
Yeah, but will this? I mean, fans are being encouraged to approach stewards if they witness unseemly actions such as the throwing of objects or hear vile chants. I've just heard the vile chant. Steward, come here. It's not going to happen, is it?
No, but I don't think. I think it's actually upon the clubs themselves to recognise the challenge and to suggest that the stewarding levels become far more significant. The cost implications of those are just the cost implications of it, and the stewards are told this is a zero. And I do mean a zero tolerance policy. I want people being hiked out of this game if they even go anywhere near this.
And the stewards are responsible for doing that.
And the stewarding superiors that are there, the coordinators and the controllers that control the stewards, and the police that are alongside them.
I think there's some things you can control.
So you're saying then stewards exert a bit more level of control at this game, a bit more force than you might normally do.
Well, wherever it appears, there should be a zero tolerance policy towards it, because there's tribalism and then there's abuse, right? And we can't conflate the two. I'm all in the camp of strong banter. When you start referring to people that died, whether it's at Hillsborough or whether it's at Munich, you're taking something away from tribalism. You're turning it into abuse and hate.
That needs punish 100%.
Yeah.
But there's some things you can alter and change, some things you can't. I've been on coaches a couple of times where I'm talking a mile more from the ground where you're getting pelted with bottles and glasses. That North London derby on the way to an Arsenal game with Tottenham, we got shelled. I remember a load of young scouts.
The coach a mile out.
Yeah, quite scary actually. A few of the lads still diving for cover, but I mean the windows were thick and he couldn't get through. But
is it too much to ask going into 2020?
How do you arrest all them?
In one word, behave.
Yes.
No, it's not too much to ask, but it's too much to expect that it's going to be heeded.
Correct. Yeah.
It's not too much to ask. Absolutely. Come on now, guys. We live in this very difficult world. We've got enough problems in the world that it is. But these people are going to bring these problems to football matches. These people are going to be striking workers. People are going to be very resentful of the world that they now live in. People that have gone post-COVID in a very difficult place. So they're already fueled. But we must not give it an excuse. It's got nothing to do with Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola's behaviour on a touchline. It's got to do with the psyche of a moron that thinks somehow or another it's his gift to say something as unpleasant.
About the manager on the touchline. Everybody's got to do their part.
Fine.
Right.
To some extent, yes, but I would hate to see my manager neutered. I'd hate to see him behaving like Klopp did.
Muted?
Neutered like a neutered dog where he doesn't feel he can behave in the way that he wants to be able to get the best from his team.
That's what he did to stop him having
neutered.
kids,
I'd hate to feel like he was neutered, like a eunuch, taken away from him, given a position where he's not in a position to be able to effectively express himself the way he wants to.
Yeah.
Right? The bottom line is, I don't think his expression should have made itself towards a linesman the way he did.
No.
And I think he should have been. I think he should have been banned. I think he should have been thrown out of the stadium and not be able to go in there rather than sit in the gods.
Okay. Are we asking the supporters to do what the two clubs are asking them to do? So what we know is this:
be passionate.
Ferran Soriano of City and his counterpart, the chief exec at Liverpool, Billy Hogan, they've had a chat, and the final paragraph of the chat is a joint message to the fans before this game. If we all stand together to report the behaviours and actions that cause harm, including inappropriate gestures, chanting, throwing of objects, as well as any and all forms of discrimination, then we could all concentrate on supporting our teams. Is that too much to ask?
Do you know what? I actually genuinely think it is. You're asking people to take responsibility for other people's behaviour, right? And people don't necessarily want to do that. You're putting people in an invidious position. You're asking somebody, I know this is probably a little bit crude, to be a snitch. Get your stewards to do their jobs. Police these games and say, right, we mean this now. And if Man City, if Liverpool are saying, well, hang on a second, it brings an inordinate amount of cost to it, then Man City can pony up some money and Liverpool can do the same when they go to their game, and we mean it. So we're asking you to be nice and behave properly and appropriately and dial this down. But by the way, we're going to take that choice away as well. So we can ask you to self-police, but if you refuse to do so, i.e. police yourself as an individual, we're going to do you ourselves. We're going to deal with you. We're going to take you out and we're going to ban you.
And let's find a balance. What we don't want is emotionless, fans who stand.
And that means and that also means training stewards to recognise what they're listening to rather than what their own bias might think they're listening to.
And getting back to the top of the show, and it's not all down to no alcohol. There was never a hint of this happening in Qatar. There was never a hint of supporters going at each other.
No.
But they also,
or singing anything.
But they also
that could
knew,
in any form be construed as
but they
discriminatory.
also knew, Jim, there was a consequence. And tragically, in this country, people know that when they commit crimes or behave badly in society, often there isn't a consequence.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why some of the situations in Qatar were absolute. And even if there was alcohol over there, people would have found themselves very swiftly dealt with.
Yeah.
And that's another part of the equation.
Incidentally, if any of the City or Liverpool fans are at this game, and they are in a situation where they found themselves approaching stewards, having witnessed unseemly actions such as the throwing of objects, or they've heard vile chants, then come to us the morning after and we'll talk about it on Friday morning.
Well,
and
ultimately,
you can give us a call 03717223344 on that morning.
Ultimately, Jim, in the end, what will happen is if it carries on and gets worse, especially the chanting, because it's horrendous, but even the intimidation, the physical aspect of it, if people are getting hurt in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
Fans, players alike.
Call it out.
Well, they'll end up with no away supporters for this game.
That's
That you know,
that's what you don't want.
But the Rangers Celtic thing,
yes,
that shows if you need
that's stubbornness by both clubs.
I know, but if you need an example of how bad it can get, that's the best example.
That's a very good point.
And the Rangers Celtic thing, the Rangers Celtic fixture, has become less of a spectacle than it should be.
Of course, it's lost if it's imaginable.
And
some of
that's
its
what happens
intensity.
if Liverpool City keep going the way they are. We might end up in that boat.
Okay, just gone 11:15.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.